Hello, my name is Myka Meier and I am the founder and director of Beaumont Etiquette. Today, we're going to be reviewing etiquette and manner scenes throughout different movies and TV shows. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Princess Diaries.
Princesses never cross their legs in public. Why don't you just tuck one ankle behind the other and place the hands gracefully on the knees?
So princesses definitely do cross their legs. There's the Cambridge cross. It's just one over the other, but then make sure your ankle touches your other ankle like so. And also the Duchess slant, which is just like so. Finally, there's the Queen's pose, which is what the Queen of England does, just knees and ankles together, and perfect.
Charlotte, I think it's time for tea.
Downton Abbey, the first movie. So in this scene, you'll note that they're using their best dining etiquette. The better etiquette you use, the more respect you're showing to your guests or the people you're dining with. So you'll see everybody's posture is perfect, everybody's using their cutlery in the right manner, everyone's making sure they're on their very best behavior. The couples are separated because you wouldn't sit a couple next to each other unless they were celebrating a special occasion, like a wedding or an anniversary, for instance.
I wish I could tell them how grateful they should be to you.
You were every bit as brave as I was.
Mary, you're talking in the wrong direction.
Don't worry about Granny. She's getting ready to give Cousin Maud a grilling.
Actually, correcting bad etiquette in public is bad etiquette, which is kind of ironic. But you wanted to make sure that you were speaking to both people on both sides of you. So after every course, you would switch sides to make sure that nobody was neglected within conversation over the meal.
So, well done to old Colby.
This wasn't Monsieur Colby, Your Majesty. Mrs. Patmore cooked it. In fact, it is the Downton Abbey staff who are serving you this evening.
Good service staff, and especially a formal environment, would pretend that they don't hear or see anything outside of what they're serving. In this scene, Mosley doesn't just correct anyone, he corrects the king, which, as you can imagine, is probably the worst thing you could do.
I do beg your pardon, Your Majesty.
You must give our compliments to Mrs. Patmore.
If you have staff that's badly mannered, it reflects directly on the family. When the king and queen respond to Mosley, it actually shows they have excellent etiquette. They really let him off easy because it would have been horrible etiquette to make him feel even worse than he already felt.
With pleasure, Your Majesty.
Actually, a gentleman, when bowing, is just a bow of the head. It's not a curtsy like he does there. That would be more of a female curtsy. There's so many things going on here that are wrong. It's like the cherry on top, really, of the bad etiquette in this scene. The crown.
Mrs. Kennedy, Your Majesty.
Your Majesty. Thank you for seeing me.
The First Lady walks in and she's wearing a hat. If a hat is worn as a part of your outfit, then you're allowed to keep it on indoors. But note that by 6 p.m., all hats come off, no matter if they're a part of your outfit or not.
Mrs. Kennedy, do sit down.
It's very frosty. The Queen doesn't give her the most warm reception, which she usually would do. The way that they both sit is so intentional. It's very ladylike, it's very elegant, but it's mostly to protect their modesty.
I'm quite sure that you meant no harm nor disrespect. After all, why would you? We barely know one another.
The way that the Queen's character puts that clotted cream on her scone, also called scone in the UK, is very intentional. So in Cornwall, they actually put the jam on first, followed by the clotted cream on top. But in Devon, they put the clotted cream on first, followed by the jam. The Queen has always said that she goes the Devon route. Now, the Duchess of Cornwall, funny enough, actually also goes the Devon route.
Yes, of course.
Now, the one thing here, if there's a table in front of you, then the saucer stays glued to the table. Instead, the Queen should have just been drinking like so. Is it proper to ever put your pinky out? Never. You take your index and your thumb and you pinch, and then use your middle finger to support, and your elbow stays in, not out. When tea first came over to Europe, it would also have come over with the little tiny teacups that were used in Asia. They were really, really small and thin, and you would really just use your 2 fingers and sometimes put your pinky out for balance. The Saxons invented the handle, and once that handle came, that pinky tucked in, never to come out again. Pride and Prejudice.
Mr. Darcy?
Miss Elizabeth?
Let's talk about Mr. Darcy's hand. There's whole blogs about this scene and the hand. During this time period, ladies typically wore gloves, and she doesn't have gloves on here. So that skin-to-skin contact, that was like saucy, skin to skin. And you see his reaction. He's like, ooh, hot. Men and women, they didn't really touch. It was seen as inappropriate to touch somebody of the opposite sex. He was interviewed years later about that scene, and he said that actually wasn't planned, but it was just his natural reaction to holding her hand. Kind of a fun fact there too. Bridgerton. This period, the Regency era, they were so particular and they were so formal.
Michonne.
Lord of Bridgerton?
Bridgerton really plays it fast and loose when it comes to the day-to-day etiquette that you see in almost every scene. It is what we might say a bodice ripper. It was especially important at this time that when a lady came to a table, a gentleman would stand, but where they didn't catch the formal etiquette here is that he actually sits before Kate sits, which wouldn't have happened.
Ladies do not hunt.
Do not or are not allowed to.
I am certain Lady Danbury can spare a maid to act as chaperone.
What an excellent idea, Miss Edwina. Surely we can make an exception, just this one time.
This would have been a real eyebrow raise for the time period. A lady would not be invited on a hunt, let alone during a formal gathering in this gorgeous dress to go with the gentleman of the household. We know it wasn't appropriate to be alone as an unmarried couple, and let's just say a lot of these characters find a lot of time to be alone. Pretty Woman.
Good. Elbows off the table. Don't slouch. Shrimp fork. Salad fork. Dinner fork.
I definitely have the salad fork. The rest of the silverware is a little confusing.
I love this scene. It's very typical of what an etiquette class really would look like in real life. Julia Roberts' character here is so good because she knows nothing in terms of etiquette. You really have this love for her character because she's really, really trying.
I don't know about you, but I've never been able to figure which goes with what.
One tip that you can always remember, the fork goes on the left because it has 4 tines. So it's F-O-R-K-L-E-F-T. Remember that the forks go on the left, the knives go on the right, and also the spoons. If you have a soup spoon, it also goes on the right. The blade of the knife always faces in toward the plate. When you're eating a multi-course meal, you start from the outside and you work your way in.
At the price I'm paying for this stock, Mr. Morse, you are going to be a very rich man.
I'm rich enough. I just want to head my shipyard.
Slippery little suckers.
Really, it's not as hard as you think to eat escargot properly, but that's that quintessential etiquette scene with just a little bit of help ahead of time that would never have happened. The Gilded Age.
I'll get a bag to her and you can carry what you need for the night. But not too much. We won't be gone long.
I love you, Marion. In fact, I don't think I've ever loved you more than I do at this moment.
That's all right then.
This scene starts out very innocent, strolling in Central Park, in public, and it turns a little bit scandalous really fast. I mean, it's a very passionate kiss, and they're doing it publicly. Dating at this time was something that was it was courtship, right? There were a lot of rules to courtship. You had your public arena. Often you had even chaperones. The stakes would have been really high here for her family. An old money family would not want something like this to get out in any kind of gossip circle. Because there's so much attention to detail when it comes to etiquette in this series, when they make an etiquette faux pas, it's a really big deal. Titanic.
They assumed he was one of them. Heir to a railroad fortune, perhaps. New money, obviously, but still a member of the club. Mother, of course, could always be counted upon.
Tell us of the accommodations in steerage, Mr. Dawson. I hear they're quite good on this ship.
The best I've seen, ma'am. Hardly any rats.
Titanic is one of my favorite movies when it comes to showing etiquette of the time period. It takes us back to 1912. The etiquette that you would show others in society, in public, really showed if you were old money, if you were new money, how well educated you were. Here we see Jack, and from the moment Rose comes down the stairs, he's trying his hardest to pretend that he's of a different class. In the very beginning, he does very well. He takes Rose's hand, he kisses it, which at the time was very respectful to a lady. In this moment, it's white tie, which is the most formal style of dressing of the time period. We see that confusion. What is that fork? What is that knife? Unless you were raised like that, that would have been a shock for him.
It's all for me. Just start from the outside and work your way in.
We see Kathy Bates' character, Molly Brown, kind of handhold him throughout this meal. It's good etiquette to take care of other people and make sure he's not embarrassed, and that's exactly what she was doing. A League of Their Own.
Gracefully and grandly, gracefully and grandly, gracefully and grandly. Posture.
The etiquette teacher is teaching them gracefully and grandly. Like this, it was really to show them graceful movement. Some etiquette schools back in the day, during the 40s, would have women put books on their heads to learn proper posture and to practice over and over and over again, really small movements that were so slow and graceful to teach a lady how to slow down, because an elegant lady would always slow her movements, slow her speech, to become an elegant woman. Nowadays, we would never really practice any of this etiquette. What's seen as ladylike then is completely outdated, but it was a very comical part of this movie. Thanks for tuning in to Vanity Fair Reviews Etiquette Edition with me, Myka Meier. Remember, pinkies down.